You've got to do something special. Part of that is making sure that your customers never have to ask why they should care about what you're bringing to market. It should be absolutely evident to them. There needs to be something unique and differentiated from what you're offering, not just something slightly better than what they may be doing today.
Welcome to Get Unstuck and On Target, the weekly podcast that offers senior leaders insights and strategies to not only lead with confidence and vision, but also to achieve groundbreaking results. I'm your host, Mike O'Neill. I coach top-level executives on the power of ethical leadership to forge teams to be as united as they are effective. In each episode, join me for insightful conversations with leaders just like you, providing practical advice to help you get unstuck and propel you and your company forward. Let's get started. Joining me again is Ian Hameroff. He is the founder and CEO of Fulcrum Group. Ian loves to tell a great story. He's a certified tech nerd with a knack for making the complex easier to digest. Fulcrum Group bridges the gap between innovative products you build and the audience that you want to reach. Long-term listeners would recognize Ian, both his face and his voice, because we recorded an episode way back. It was episode 9. This is episode 187. Welcome back, Ian.
Well, Mike, that's an incredible milestone to think about, just the distance that has happened between episode 9 and today. And I'm really, really grateful for the chance to come back and speak with you again.
There's several reasons I wanted to invite you back. One, the fact that this time has elapsed and the world has changed, your business has changed, my business has changed. And what I wanted to do in our time together is, one, update our listeners to what's going on in your world. But particularly, Ian, what I wanted to be able to do is kind of give you a chance to walk us through the journey that you've been on. Because when we recorded the episode way back when, you were somewhat a solopreneur. Now your company has grown and you have assumed that role of CEO. And I think our viewers and listeners would benefit from learning a little bit about lessons learned on that journey. So you ready to just kind of jump right in?
You bet. It's kind of funny. I went back and looked at episode 9 in preparation for this, partially just to remind myself what we talked about last time. And, honestly, also to make sure I didn't accidentally wear the same clothes just by pure happenstance from what we did last time. But absolutely, I'd love to talk about the journey.
One of the things I noticed immediately is when we talked last on camera, the name of your business was the Fulcrum Group. And something happened to the. Tell me a little more about the name change.
It's crazy to think, and I'll couch this in the fact that on Monday, August 5th, we're going to be celebrating 5 years in business. And when you and I first spoke, that was in the first few months, almost the first year of our existence as the Fulcrum Group. And as you mentioned, a lot changed during that time period. And one of the things that changed really last year was the realization that the brand and the positioning that we had when you and I last spoke wasn't matching the new energy and the optimism and what we were bringing to market with our services, our tech product marketing services, our strategic go-to-market consulting services. So, we reached out to a partner of ours and we did a whole brand refresh. And, just through the process, very similar to how we work with our own clients, we found ways to further simplify our own story. And part of that simplification was simply dropping the and just being Fulcrum Group. Plus, we got a brand new logo that I'm really, really proud of, and I think matches what our energy, our approach, and the story we want to tell about our Fulcrum business as we help our clients tell their own to the market.
For those who are looking over your shoulder, the logo does look very, very good. You used the word energy twice, and I did not do a thorough job of introducing what does Fulcrum Group do. So why don't we start with that? What do y'all do now?
So very similar to what we were in the beginning and what you and I spoke about back in episode 9, but have certainly evolved and grown both through experience and trial and error. Fulcrum Group is an instant-on tech marketing firm. We work exclusively with B2B tech companies, and we help them accelerate, whether it's helping them accelerate their sales, accelerate their revenue growth, accelerate product adoption. Because we're able to help them create authentic and impactful connections along every touch point on their buyer's journey, our clients are better positioned to stand out, resonate, and break through in the markets in which they go to market in. And as I said earlier, under the covers, what we do is tech product marketing and go-to-market strategy consulting services, but it's all in furtherance of helping these B2B tech companies push the pedal to the metal, to scale, to accelerate. And who couldn't use a little burst of energy in their go-to-market these days? And that's what we aim to be, that catalyzer, that accelerator for our clients.
That being said, you mentioned that y'all focus primarily on tech products. And if folks are listening, they say, well, I don't do tech. This doesn't apply to me. I'm going to beg to differ. But that's the kind of the niche that y'all work. Now, you're speaking to me from the Seattle area. Is that correct?
That's right. Still based in Seattle, although the team that has grown is spread across the whole country now.
Isn't it amazing what the technology has enabled? What is it about tech products? You build a great product, but nobody knows about it. Why are tech products hard to go to market?
Well, I'm going to steal a little bit from our conversation last time around and just remind your audience that while you may not think you're a tech product company, every company is a tech company these days. For the reasons you just mentioned, my own firm exists in the model it does because of technology allowing us to have our team spread across the country. That all being said, you're absolutely right. Just because you build a great product, tech or otherwise, doesn't mean the audience is going to come. And part of the reason for that is there is so much competing for the attention, for your prospective customers' own attention and their energies, that for you to truly stand out, resonate, and break through to your audience, you've got to do something special. Part of that is making sure that your customers never have to ask why they should care about what you're bringing to market. It should be absolutely evident to them. There needs to be something unique and differentiated from what you're offering, not just something slightly better than what they may be doing today. Because as you and I both know, and I assume your audience would nod their head ferociously in hearing the same, change is hard. And getting someone to change is extremely hard when there's so many competing folks trying to get them to make a change to their offering or service or product. So that's what we step in to help our clients do. They've already had some success and they're getting some scale and they're getting some traction, but they need that extra acceleration to move further, faster, and really bridge that gap between their innovations and the audiences they want to reach.
In keeping with the theme of this podcast, your clients are enjoying success, but they might be feeling a sense of stall, a sense of being stuck. And you use the word accelerate through. Elaborate a little bit about what this notion of acceleration means.
It can mean a number of different things, and it really depends, like you mentioned, the situation our clients find themselves in. Sometimes getting stuck for them is not having the resources, human capital or otherwise, to achieve the go-to-market goals and objectives they have. Often we're working with heads of marketing, chief marketing officers, VPs of marketing, and they have so many things that they have to pull, all these different levers to effectively build their brand, drive demand, and ultimately push sales cycles through, consideration to close. What can be difficult to do is have the right product storytelling, the right positioning, the right differentiation, and the right tools and assets to do that quickly. And this is where Fulcrum comes in more often than not, is to help those heads of marketing, CMOs, and the like get unstuck and accelerate their efforts at a time where no one can afford to be sitting idle and trying to catch up. And I'll further say, what we do, tech product marketing for B2B companies, is arguably a very difficult role to fill. And what we recognized, and even when we spoke the first time years back, there's a huge gap there. And it can be a place people get stuck because they can't find the talent they need. And we would love to help fill that gap or bridge that gap, either short-term or long-term, as they meet their needs to increase sales, drive increased quality of leads and demand, close sales cycles faster, and do all that in a way that really promotes the unique differentiation, the things that make them stand out from the reasonable alternatives available to their prospects and even their existing customers on the market.
One thing as I'm listening to you that we have in common, though I come out of a corporate HR background, providing leadership to large HR teams, I choose to work with small to mid-sized growing companies because I love the energy you're talking about when an organization is growing. But with growth comes growing pains. And I kind of like, if you don't mind, to shift a little bit about your own experience. When we recorded, you were a solopreneur. You were launching then the Fulcrum Group. And you have indicated that in that time, 5 years, congratulations. That's a huge milestone. This episode will go live about 3 or 4 weeks after that official 5-year anniversary date. But as you have matured as a company and you as a solopreneur having to take on more, give us a little bit of feel about what that experience has been like for you over the last 5 years.
I'll use the same answer I've been using almost from the very beginning. It's a combination of being both fun and frustrating. Mm. And why I say that is, gosh, there's so much that you get to do and learn and stretch. Many of the things that I do now, even from the beginning as a solopreneur or now with a team of 7, are things I've never had the opportunity to do in over 2 decades, working in companies large like Microsoft or smaller like Nintex or Promethean. So that's super fun to me. I'm very curious. I love digging into things and learning things new, but gosh, it can get frustrating. And it can get frustrating in a number of different ways. Some of the frustration comes from having to do all of this, sometimes at the same time. Mm-hmm. And while the journey to learn and stretch is core to myself and actually core to pretty much every member of the Fulcrum team, it's a common DNA element. It can be frustrating when you've got to do it all and you've got to get it all done in a certain time. So I would certainly say it's never one or the other all the time. And it's that combination of fun and frustrating that I think has propelled me to go and grow from 1 to 2 to 4 to 7, to go from 1 or 2 clients to almost 40 in these 5 years. And, I would share with fellow either entrepreneurs thinking about starting their own business or those who are well deep into it like myself, is lean into that and enjoy both the fun and frustration, because when you hit certain plateaus, or maybe people would consider it more brick walls, remembering the fun parts helps you get through the frustration, and tackling the frustration can be extremely fun, but it only gets more complicated as you're trying to scale and grow your business. And what I learned is another word that begins with the letter F, and I promise it's a clean one, and that is feedback. And I have never enjoyed more in my life or in my career the opportunity to seek and take and absorb feedback than I have, because that is what helps bridge between the frustrating parts of trying to grow and build a business to get to the fun parts. And sometimes when you're in the fun parts, it reminds you what are the things that get you back to that are maybe frustrating and have to be dealt with.
So let me share with you what I'm seeing and hearing, and that is 5 years have transpired. We agreed to set up this recording, but we had a nice chance to kind of reconnect, and you had a chance to go back and look at your experience for the episode number 9. Before we hit the record button, you shared with me that you learned from a feedback standpoint of some things you wanted to do differently. Hopefully, I've learned the same and become better at being a host. And I guess I come back to this fun, frustration, and feedback. I love that description, but we were talking about growing companies. And one of the things I've picked up on, see if this is something you see. I see this in my consulting work. I also see this in my coach work. And that is, people assume that when you go from one employee to two, and two to three, and three to four, that it's a linear progression in terms of complexity. I would argue it's not, and that there are certain milestones when companies hit that are more difficult to work through. What are your observations?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, back in 2022, I had realized that, and it's funny to reflect back again, and we're doing some of this now as we get ready to celebrate 5 years. When I first started Fulcrum, when you and I first spoke, I had no intentions of going beyond just an army of one. I had my fill and wonderful opportunities to grow and build teams and have large scopes of responsibility. But as I started and pressed the reset button and left jobs to start my own thing, I really wanted to enjoy just going along the journey, stumbling or otherwise, all on my own. But then we started gaining some traction, and it got exciting, and definitely still managing the yin and yang of fun and frustration. I knew I needed help, and I started bringing some folks in, and suddenly now we were more than just an army of one. We finally had the group of Fulcrum Group coming together, not just the one person. But I had this realization in 2022 that, gosh, the things that I was doing to get to where I was were not going to be the things I could do or rely upon to get me to go next. And it really came down to both that realization that I needed help and finding a great coach and mentor that I could have as a sparring partner. And I know this is something you and I spoke about the other day, just how crucial that type of person can be in your life and in your business life in particular, to get you out of your own way, again, to get you unstuck. And I completely believe, had I not had that moment of self-reflection, which can be very hard to do when you're neck deep in something like trying to grow a business, deliver quality service and results and impact to your clients, start adding additional resources and team members. But it really needed to happen for me. I needed to stop. I needed to acknowledge that I was stuck, and I needed to realize that Google searches and random emails out to people that I knew and trust was not going to be what's going to get me from where I was to where we are heading towards today. So I would say that to me was among one of the most important realizations as trying to grow and scale a business is you got to get out of your own way as much as removing obstacles that you see in front of you, and don't think you can do it all on your own. Having a strong coach and mentors and advisors who you can bring in and speak to on a regular basis is that lubricant that helps you not necessarily get forever unstuck, but it helps you move more quickly. And kind of going back to the theme from our own business, it helps accelerate when it may not seem possible.
You mentioned that you have engaged mentor, coach, and you referred to one of those as kind of a sparring partner. And my first imagery was someone you fight with, but a sparring partner, they know you well, do they not? And they know that for you to be better, they have to be mindful of that. I actually like that illustration. I don't know if I've ever described myself as a sparring partner, but what I will say is a sparring partner knows the vulnerability and they can capitalize on that, but they're also trying to bring along who they're working with to be better at what it is they're trying to do. We've talked a good deal about this progression not being linear, and that what you envisioned originally and what you have now, and that if you could hold on to that sense of fun, while also growing the business and rely on feedback. Are you having fun now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm having so much fun. I'm choked up trying to say it, but I am absolutely having fun. And, part of it comes from whenever we face adversity or, we have challenges, which we certainly do. And, it hurts in the moment and it certainly lights up that frustrating column. But I think not just for myself, but the team I've built, and because one of our core values is curiosity in addition to honesty and empathy, because we bring those things together, that's not just our outward values. Those are the ones we do for ourselves inwardly. We kind of dust ourselves off, pick ourselves back up, and then we say, hey, what did we learn from this? What can we do differently? And, going back to your point about it not being linear, oh gosh, it's not even necessarily something that heads in the same direction the same time and all the time. And I think you got to be okay with that, especially at a small stage. We're still small, but obviously have our sights set to continue growing. Sometimes those zigs and zags, those fits and starts, those 2 steps forward and then falling 3 steps back, only to go 4 steps ahead. You can get seasick from that. So it's really crucial that you're grounded in a great culture, good shared core principles as a team, clarity on who you are as a business and what you offer, and not taking every body blow, to pull on our metaphor or analogy of the sparring partner as fatal. And the reason why I like the sparring partner notion, it's all the reasons you mentioned, but you rather have the opportunity to be in the ring early with someone who's clearly vested in your success and again knows where you're strong and knows where you can still grow, and make those mistakes in the ring before the bell really rings for the day-to-day life of your business. And I cannot say enough about having not just a coach who's a sparring partner, but many folks in my virtual board of directors that have helped me to get to 5 years, and I know they will be among the folks who help me get to the next 5 years.
I'm going to encourage our listeners to really lean into what Ian just said, and as you referred to a group of people as your virtual board of advisors. These are people who do have your back, but they also have walked their own journeys, and it sounds like you've relied on them to help kind of guide you. I know that you're being somewhat reflective, looking back 5 years, and you're mindful of the lessons learned along the way. But for those who are considering entrepreneurship, or they have a business, but they're considering, is it worth scaling? What do you advise folks about that? What do you find that are things that when you share are most meaningful to them?
It's something that I actually heard from my own coach when I first engaged with him back in the summer, fall of 2022. And that is the notion, at least in the situation I was in. I'm a self-funded, bootstrap business. The only creditors or the only investors was myself, my family, right? Mm-hmm. But what stuck out to me is it's good to be ambitious, but remember, you get to decide. You get to figure out how fast or how slow you want to go. And while I think there's a natural tendency to always want to push the throttle all the way up and go as fast and furiously as possible, that may not be the right answer. And that's not to say that's a conservative versus a more aggressive approach to growing a business. Whether you're first starting or whether you're at a stage like I was and continue to be, where you're at these moments where you make decisions about, do you want to get to that next level or do you want to continue growing? There's nothing wrong if you're being successful where you are right now to stay there. You don't have to keep pushing and pushing if either you're not ready or it's not the right time. So I would say to someone who's in that situation, one, be ready for the fun and frustration and add the feedback to that mix. If you want to be able to feel like you've got a great balance or something that can help be the ballast as you might hit rough seas. But the second thing is take the journey on your time. For me, it was a slow start as I was figuring things out, doing projects here and there, enjoying the flexibility. But then, I blinked and suddenly I had more work that I could handle at the quality levels that I expected of myself and of the business on my own. So that was a point where I could either decided to tamper down or to bring some help in. But that was on my timeline, nobody else's. And that's a luxury you only have really when you're at your earliest stages. So enjoy that and work the gas and brake pedal as you see fit for yourself.
You used rough seas, and when you were talking about the throttle, the imagery that I already had in my mind is your hands on that throttle of that motorboat. You could feel the motor in the throttle. And there are times when it's best to take your hand off the throttle. There are times that it would be appropriate to kind of ease forward on that throttle. And there may be times to push all in. And there's no magic as to knowing what that would be. As you kind of reflect on this conversation and you say, gosh, I sure hope that the folks watching and listening have the following. What do you want to be the takeaways?
I mean, we've covered so much surface area here, and it's fantastic to share my journey and any lessons learned. And as much as I've added the feedback to the fun and frustrating a few years back. It's not been a one-way street. It's also sharing what I've learned and always being open to doing so. That is incredibly rewarding, as much and as equally rewarding, if not at sometimes more than what I've done in successes and meeting challenges as the business. But I think the key thing that I hope folks walk away from after listening is accelerating your go-to-market is important. And there are businesses out there like my own that can help you do that. But at the end of the day, it's about how you want to take that journey and being convicted that you want to grow and making sure you've got the right crew to keep the sort of sailing metaphor afloat here. You've got the right crew on the boat with you, all going in the same direction. Because again, there's no straight path. You're always going to face turbulence or choppy waves. And it's best to know that you have a group of folks that can come in like Fulcrum Group and be instant on and deliver rapid outcomes while also helping you lower your stress levels. And we try to do that for our clients as much as we try to do the same for ourselves. So I really appreciate the chance to come back, Mike, and share some of those lessons learned over the many years that have passed since episode 9 to the great successes you've had all the way to now.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to share that. Again, congratulations on 5 years in business. You have defied the odds. I am confident that the next 5 years show lots of promise. And therefore, let me go ahead and say this now. Let's go ahead and mark our calendar. Let's don't wait 5 more years before we put you back on the podcast. But what I would say, it's very gratifying just to kind of realize I was sitting in this exact same location when we recorded that, whatever number of years ago that was. But the world has changed dramatically. But what I get to see is I see how you've matured as a business owner, now a leader. I get to see how your business has evolved to better meet the needs of your clients and how you have very purposely grown in a way that you can support these clients in a way that they would expect and that you would expect for you and your team. So, Ian, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask our listeners to reflect on a critical question that really applies to all leaders. And that is, why do people choose to follow your lead? Is it out of obligation, or do they truly believe in your vision? Leadership, it thrives on clarity and competence. It's not just about holding authority. It's about creating practical solutions that drive real bottom line results. As an executive coach, I specialize in helping leaders achieve bottom line impact and become inspiring figures for the people that follow. At Bench Builders, we inspire excellence in leadership by providing personalized strategies that harness Fortune 500 insights. We're here to help you achieve significant progress towards your goals. So I challenge our listeners to lead in a way that draws people to your vision, not because they have to, but because they're inspired to. If you want to learn more, let me invite you to visit bench-builders.com to learn how we could support your leadership journey. Ian, your insights, as expected, have been really phenomenal. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. And thank you again, Mike. I look forward to talking again before 5 years, without a doubt.
Well, I know that there's folks listening and watching right now who want to learn more. If folks want to engage with you further or have got some questions, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can visit our website at fulcrum.group. You can follow us on LinkedIn, where we do publish a lot of useful insights. In fact, most recently, we just shared our brand new Accelerate series ebook on how to build an effective competitive analysis program, which is super crucial if you want to stand out in an increasingly crowded marketplace. You've got to understand how you are truly different than the reasonable alternatives out there. And I hope to share my email information with the show notes so folks can just reach out directly at any time. And I welcome it. I enjoy the chance to speak to folks who would already be listening to you, because I know as a listener, there's a ton of value I've gained, and they seem like the type of people we would love to work with.
You are correct. That contact information will be in the show notes. Again, thank you, Ian, and I want to thank our subscribers for tuning in. And I hope that today's discussion has provided you with some insights that will help you get unstuck and on target. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Get Unstuck and On Target. I hope you've gained insights to help you lead with confidence and drive your organization forward. Remember, at Bench Builders, we're committed to your success, your leadership excellence, and your strategic growth. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, please leave a review, rate, and subscribe to keep up with our latest episodes. This show really grows when listeners like you share it with others. Who do you know who needs to hear what we talked about today? Until next time, I encourage you to stay focused on the target and continue to break new ground on your leadership path.